Tennessee feeling? Hope everybody's been good. Hope July 4th was good for y'all. Hope you still got your 10 fingers and 10 toes. I feel for everybody in Texas and North Carolina. It's just bad. I feel like we're having all these lifetime events back to back, and I thought they were supposed to be lifetime events. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about y'all, but I guess Jesus is coming soon. Hope y'all enjoyed last month's episode. This month we're going to talk about something that, if you're into the paranormal, you probably heard of. If you're looking for tourist things in Memphis, you've probably heard of it. If you're neither, then you probably have never heard of this place. I've heard of it from both. I've actually been to it. It is Earnestine and Hazel's in Memphis. So you judging by that, you probably know it's a little bit haunted. And yes, it's in Memphis. But what makes it so interesting? Well, quite a bit, actually. And its history goes back a long, long time. So let's talk about it first. So, Earnestine and Hazel is, it's pretty much just a staple in Memphis now. And it's been there, the building has been there since the 1930s. And it was actually a pharmacy. Started out as a pharmacy in like the late 1930s. And it ran as a pharmacy should until its owner, Abe Plow, Plow looks better, created a product that could straighten the hair out. And of course, at that time, his invention just took off. Everybody from New Orleans to New York just loved it because it allowed people to basically put their hair back into styles that were seen in the old sepia toned pictures, like those kind of things. But it allowed them to do new things as well, and people just loved it. But Abe also went on to make the famous copper tone suntan lotion. So this made Abe a little bit successful, and he didn't really care no more about that building and that pharmacy. So he pretty much just gave the building to two hairstylists who were using his product upstairs, Earnestine and Hazel. Now, Earnestine and Hazel were actually cousins, and they decided that they were going to turn the building into a cafe. Now, Ernestine's husband was actually a street promoter named Sunbeam, and he had just opened a nearby music joint called Club Paradise. Club Paradise was on its own doing pretty well. It was hosting legends like B.B. King, Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, Motown, Ray Charles, Bo Diddley, Sam Cooke, Chuck Berry, Jackie Wilson. You guys get where I'm going. They had the names. And throughout the next 20 years, they would go from Club Paradise, where Sunbeam was doing his thing, to Ernestine and Hazel's, where they could get good food, tell some stories, and of course, maybe find a little bit of action, maybe from the women upstairs. I'm not saying that that's, a thing, but that was a thing. And of course, everything went good. Everything was happening. Everything was great until about the 1970s, when Club Paradise got boarded up with pretty much the rest of downtown Memphis, y'all. Memphis wasn't doing so hot in the 70s and 80s. But Ernestine and Hazel's prevailed. Now, fast forward to, let's say, 1990s, 92, 93. Bud Chittum and Delmer George actually bought the Ernestine and Hazel property. A couple years later, Bud decided to bring on Russell George, who was dancing and singing his way around the area. George actually owned another bar at the time, and Chittum knew that George's he had a great attitude. He was like a little bit laid back, cool. He'd be really good for Ernestine and Hazel. Now, Ernestine and Hazel kind of already had its own legend. It's got the history of Memphis. It's already had all these legends in it. It's got soul, it's got jazz, it's got blues. You've already had these people come through the doors, hang out, tell these stories. And that really kind of represented where Memphis used to be and kind of where Memphis stayed. And Ernestine and Hazel is still that old dive bar. And it's a really cool place, y'all. It's really cool. And you can still go and get some food and some burgers. They got really good burgers. Not even going to lie. And people talk about Ernestine and Hazel still to this place. Still talk about this place still to this day. But why? Because those people that used to be there? Well, a little bit because of that, and a little bit because of what still happens to this day. Best thing you want to do, though, is go talk to the bartenders. I actually got the chance to talk to the bartenders, and man, did I hear some stories. And if you just research it, you're going to hear the same stories. But I think one of the coolest things about Ernestine and Hazel is that it kept its look. They never changed the look of this place. It looks just like the old building that it is. It's not renovated. It's not. They did not renovate it. The bottom floor still has the long wooden bar on the one wall, and then booths across on the other. 4 tops, pool table, and you can tell that the bar itself has seen some days with knife cuts, nicks, chunks missing. And of course, even though the booths and tables have been replaced, they still show their age. You can still tell that they've been loved and worn. And of course, they've got their wall of fame. But it really more looks like just snapshots from the 1970s, which really does add to its charm. And if you really talk to people about the history of this place, it's so cool. If you like, I got to actually sit and talk to one of the bartenders. I went on a day; it wasn't busy. It was actually great. Nobody wanted to go with me. I didn't care. I was going to do this. I knew where this place was, and I got to hear about the side door that actually opened directly on the stairs, and that's where the Johns from the riverboats used to enter. So things happening. And then there is an upstairs. You can go upstairs, and there's benches where the Johns used to wait their turn. And then if you actually go upstairs and you can look in the rooms. Of course, there's a bathroom, and then behind another one's a red light and a radio from the 1970s. Another one's a bar with a few stools and a piano. And I've heard that if you're there late enough, you can experience some other kind of guest, which is really what drew me to that place. I wanted to see it for myself. And even the sign out front is still an old sign. Still says Ernestine and Hazel Sundry Store. It's a beautiful, it's an amazing place with just some amazing charms. And I love that they have never, ever really updated this place. I mean, it's great. And one of the cool things, though, is it really does have great food. And it does allow smoking. And it is a 21 and up place at all times. Like, that's not going to change. But they really, really do have really good food. And that's what shocked me. Because I wasn't going to eat anything. But then I had to hear about it. And the main thing it's the soul burger. And the soul burger is great. It's got every topping. Just go with it. And you can try it different. Don't it? I did see somebody in there trying to get it a different way. The guy finally gave in, but basically, when I got it, I just told the guy, give me the normal, because I wanted to see what it was. I had heard so much about it. It's basically a bun, patty, onions, cheese, pickle, and soul sauce, as they call it. And it's great. It was, I mean, I'll tell you now, that was good. And it's those caramelized, greasy onions that have been on that grill. It was good. It was really, really, really good. And it's a dive bar. They got beer on tap. And, they got cocktails. Don't ask for anything fancy. Just get a drink, get a burger, and sit there and listen to music. I mean, that is literally the point of Ernestine and Hazel's. And I think that was, that was what made it so good, and that's what made it last for so long. And that was, that was what was so charming about this place, even when it wasn't busy when I was there. But there's some other people that hang out there that you may or may not see. And, when I was talking to the bartender, they kind of opened up a little bit about it. And, they said they get an eerie feeling. They feel like, somebody's always watching them or listening to them. And they didn't want to disrespect them, which I think is cool. I think it's cool. Now, I did find out that, like, the building had been there, obviously, before the 1930s, since about the late 1800s, which is insane to me, that it went from a pharmacy and a sundry store to a jazz cafe and a brothel, and then a bar. So you can imagine that there is a ton of things that have happened there that shouldn't have happened, and fights, and y'all, there's got to be a lot of unsettled people that never left. And Ernestine's husband owned the club where the people came from to hang out at her cafe. And there's stories of everybody going upstairs and, hanging out with the ladies and, passing around drugs. And it's just insane to hear some of the stories that come out of this. And then to go and see the old piano that still sits up there and those blue walls and the paint that's just chipping, and they just will not, they don't touch it. It's just part of that history and that charm. And what I think is cool is that Ernestine and Hazel were around for a really long time. Hazel actually didn't die until 1995. Ernestine didn't die until 1998. And Ernestine actually became really good friends with Russell George, who, kind of saved the property. Ernestine and Hazel's did have a rough time. It did, like I said, most of it closed down, spotty for a time. But Ernestine did get to become really good friends with Russell George, who saved the property. And there's plenty of interviews that I found where she would tell him about, the stuff about the place and the things that they experienced. And, but he saved the place. It was great that he actually got to bring this place back to life in dealing with all that Memphis dealt with, because Memphis was pretty much done for quite a while, y'all, in the 70s and 80s. It was not a good place. It was not a good place to be. And for a place like this to get to survive that and then to come back to life is an awesome story. And then for one of the owners to be able to talk to the new owner to tell them, like, hey, this is what it used to be, and this is what it was, and this is what we saw, and this is what we did. That's kind of fantastic. And I'm sure that she might have experienced some of those spirits herself. I'm sure they were there when she was still there because, things happen. And unfortunately, one of the saddest things is that Russell, the previous owner, actually committed suicide upstairs in Earnestine and Hazel's. I'll tell you one of probably the most infamous stories coming out of Earnestine and Hazel's. So, and I got this from one of the sites. I found this after I had already visited. Apparently, on Christmas Day, 2006, one of the bartenders and managers of Earnestine Hazel in Memphis was apparently discussing the death of James Brown, the godfather of soul. And as they continued the discussion, the voice of a recently silenced singer erupted from the jukebox, proclaiming, "I feel good." So they're talking with an employee, and all of a sudden the jukebox comes on as James Brown and just starts, "I feel good." And the employees just kind of stared at each other. And then Brown continued, "I got you." Now, was the singer using the jukebox to talk to them? Or is it a coincidence? Is the jukebox known to have a mind of its own? Yes, absolutely. It's known to play according to the discussion or sometimes the what people are talking about in the bar. Another time, a group of friends celebrating a woman's divorce were greeted by the jukebox blaring Tammy Wynette's DIVORCE. Very fitting for that topic. Sometime later, a paranormal investigator was actually discussing exorcisms, and then the jukebox decided to pipe up the Rolling Stones' Sympathy for the Devil. And another thing is, many of the performers of these songs have passed across the floor in this dive bar. They visited this place. Sometimes these people even slept there when Earnestine and Hazel were actually renting out the rooms upstairs. And of course, they might have visited the girls upstairs. So it's very strange to hear these stories about, you know, the jukebox just coming on and hearing about, just like the jukebox just wants to have a discussion with the people too. Great customer service, I guess. We could talk about it like that. And honestly, Ernestine and Hazel became a place that a lot of people found as their third spot. Like, that's the place they wanted to go. It was kind of like their confidant. They got to know the bartenders, and they got to know as a place like they knew other people. And, they went back even after their death. One of the employees also told a story, and I found this one as well, that unfortunately one of the employees' sons was shot and killed. And the employee was at work, and she was upset about the death of her son. And she sat at the end of the bar, and she began to talk to God. She also began to talk to the late Miss Ernestine because she knew her as well. She was just talking out loud to him. And she was asking for a sign that her son was okay. She noticed a baby bird emerge from one of the booths, walk towards the door, walk out, and fly off. Moments later, an older woman entered and asked if she was okay. The employee told her what had happened. The woman comforted her. The woman left and returned later with a sterling silver necklace with a bird. She's never seen the woman before or since, but she does believe that it was Miss Ernestine. And there's many stories of people swearing up and down that Miss Ernestine visits the bar from time to time. They also believe that Miss Hazel comes around every now and then. And this has also been talked about a lot, as the former owner, George Russell, would regularly hear voices and clinking glasses even when the bar was empty. The sounds of partying would carry on long after actual living patrons had long departed and they were cleaning up. But of course, that's not the only sounds that are experienced. They also see apparitions, like full-bodied apparitions. The apparition of a man carrying a white pillar candle has been observed walking in the bar. And paranormal investigators actually captured the apparition walking on the street in front of the bar at the witching hour, 3 a.m. That one's creepy to me. So I went to look and see what was happening. Apparently, the building was originally supposed to be built as a church. So this thing went from a church to a pharmacy to a sundry to a brothel and a cafe and now a bar. So that's an interesting one to me. Now, of course, stories circulated that prostitutes either committed suicide or were murdered upstairs. And that could explain sometimes the patrons who feel someone grabbed their hands at the top of the staircase. This also could be accompanied by the overwhelming sense of sadness or fear. So, next time you're at Ernestine and Hazel's, maybe enjoy a soul burger, grab that drink, listen to the music, and don't forget to say hello. Or ask the jukebox a question, and maybe it'll give you an answer in the form of a song. And, that's just one of those things. Ernestine and Hazel's is just kind of a fixture in Memphis. And as they say, it is truly famously haunted. Is it haunted by the famous? That's probably a really, really good possibility from all the stories that I've gathered and all the stories that I've, been able to find. I I did find that apparently the number is 13. 13 people allegedly did lose their lives inside Ernestine and Hazel's. You know, details are kind of vague, but they do know that one violent murder took place in a formal brothel room, which is sad. You know, it's sad that that did happen. But they think that that's the woman that may grab your hands at the top of the stairs. They also think that Ray Charles may possibly be upstairs because he was known to go upstairs and frequent the piano that's in the Blue Room. They also said he might have enjoyed the women too. Again, a lot of it's unconfirmed because I'm sure at Earnestine and Hazel's there is a lot of confidence. Like, people wanted... You have to think of it probably like today. If you're going to go do something that you may or may not want people to do, you had to have people that you trusted around you. So, you know, all of this is allegedly, but it's been documented many, many times. So, it's interesting. I think Earnestine and Hazel is one of those really, really, really amazing, really cool places that you should definitely visit in Memphis. If not for the ghost, definitely for the history. I'm not saying don't be surprised if you see a ghost, but I'm saying, like, it could happen. It really could happen. I liked my time there. I didn't feel anything weird. I almost felt a sense of calm. Kind of like, you know, everybody that wants to be in Earnestine and Hazel's, that kind of understands about Earnestine and Hazel's, just kind of wants to sit there and enjoy a burger and a beer and listen to some good music and really understand what Memphis is about. Couple fun facts about Earnestine and Hazel's. The bar has been featured in 9 movies and covered in publications such as Playboy and Esquire. A full bag of money did go missing inside the bar once, only to reappear 5 years later. Talk about a long-term deposit. People do stand by the jukebox and feel like someone is touching them. Who knows? And like I already said, former employees do claim that they can still communicate with Earnestine. It feels like she really did put her soul into that bar. So I will say that out of all the haunted places in Tennessee that I have visited, Earnestine and Hazel's was probably one of the most interesting, and probably one that I definitely recommend if you are into the paranormal and you're in Memphis. You should definitely check out, y'all. Say hello to Miss Earnestine. Talk to the jukebox. Talk to the bartender. Don't order a fancy cocktail, y'all. It's not. Just get you a beer or something. Or if you're gluten-free, get a vodka and Coke. But just go and enjoy the vibe, because that really was what Earnestine and Hazel wanted. They wanted it to be a cafe for people to just come and get some food and hang out. So I suggest doing that. Who knows what stories you'll tell about the place. All right, y'all. It's hot. It's summer. So drink your water. And I'll see y'all next month. But in the meantime, stay country.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.